Good morning, and I hope all is well. I hope you're doing well with everything that's happening, and that everybody in your household is quite well. Somebody is having technical difficulties logging on. I hope that they can get that solved. Wednesday. I don't exactly know what happened on Wednesday. Some type of technical glitch, but it is what it is. Here we are today. I will be taking let's see, right now there are 18 participating. I need to take a screenshot of those 18 real quickly here. Hang on. Okay, on Wednesday, we were going to do a spot check of the notes that you had thus far, that you'd taken from the videos. I think I am going to transition that to Canvas. That would take a tremendous amount of time. I'm going to do something for you guys that I had not, I had no reason to do in years past. There are a few people, and I'm not going to call anyone out, but there are a few people who have done poorly this year in class as far as getting assignments in, getting assignments made up, etc. I want to address that. Since we're not in school for the 4th 9 weeks, it would be kind of unjust at the end of the year to not have given you an opportunity to, because I don't know theoretically, even though we probably know what everyone would have done in their 4th 9 weeks based on their prior 3 9 weeks, level of participation and work and competency. We kind of know what everyone would have done, but we really don't know for sure. And because of that little bit of uncertainty, what I'm going to do for those of you who are not, this is only for people who are not passing or have a D in my class. Not passing or a D. Got it? D and F. For those of you who have that for the year and you know who you are, I'm going to leave open all the past assignments. Now, this may seem a little unjust to some, but last 9 weeks, you can go back and redo any assignment. Now, you'll only get partial credit. You need to let me know by email when you submit those so that I can go back and add them into your grade, because there's some of you who have a lot of zeros. This will give you the opportunity to earn back some of that, since the 4th 9 week is different, and we don't exactly know what it's going to look like yet. I want to give everyone the opportunity to massage that grade to facilitate making higher. So because of that reason, anything this semester will look, and once you clear out all those grades, if you're still not where you need to be, we'll look at opening up the first semester. I just want, because many of you may have really buckled down and did really well this 9 weeks, and now we don't know that you'll necessarily have that opportunity. I do hope that you can hear me right now, because I just said a lot of things. Brooklyn, I'm going to unmute you. Prepare in 3, 2, 1. Brooklyn, can you hear me just fine?
Yes.
Thank you very much. You're muted again. I'm reading the messages on the sign. We have a number of students who are having some difficulty logging in today for some reason. I don't know what's going on. We're going to go ahead and move forward. I was going to do the spot check, and then in Wednesday's meeting with Global Perspectives, I did a very similar type of spot check for a different assignment. And moving from student to student and bringing up the screen in that way made it so that, by the way, this is a bad example. Don't touch your face. You know that, right? Don't touch your face. Anyway, it was really an arduous process getting that done. I had set aside about 30 minutes or so of the meeting to do that. And I might have gotten 5 or 6 people, because inevitably we discuss what's there and we have them illuminate that a little bit. And I really wanted to do that with the videos that you watch, so that everybody could kind of see the different options that were out there. But instead, we're going to turn that in on Canvas, so that there can be an actual hard copy of what you did, so that if and when we start back to school this 9 weeks, we can have that to draw from. And if they want artifacts, in other words, actual real examples of work you have been doing this 9 weeks to justify a grade, we can have that. And it makes it easier to grade. And you don't have to sit through me doing that with 24, 25 different students. So I'm going to create an assignment, and because I'm just now creating it today, I won't make it due today. I'll make it due by like Sunday night or Monday morning for you, but before the next class meets, so that we can get that behind us. Moving forward, I hope that you are taking notes from the sessions. Hope you're taking advantage of the YouTube videos that I post. Basically, I'm recording the class right now. Making sure, yes, I am recording the class. I'm recording the class, and I'll be uploading that to Corinth High School Social Studies YouTube channel, and it'll say that it's our class for today. We need to get through the progressive era stuff, so kind of rub your eyes and get out your notes and your pen and just jot down some basic topics that you know to go back and fill in. Do not take notes on these slides, because I'll be moving too rapidly. And you can go back and do that later. You can pause the video online. You can take screenshots right now, is what I've suggested in the past before I was uploading to YouTube. It's up to you. You will need notes for these slides. Got it? Okay. So let's begin. All right, here we are. I believe this is where we were. Remember that you have an assignment on your journal entry that is due Monday. So don't forget that. And it was, to what extent do you agree with the following statement? The most significant gains of the progressive era were provided by the progressive era amendments. Don't forget that that is due. It is a level B question. You've got to be kidding me. Hey, that's a lot of notes we've been through on the progressive era, isn't it? We had made it up to Woodrow Wilson. We were looking at the progressive presidents. Now, there are a lot of historians who say that Woodrow Wilson was not. How he got elected. The election of 1912 is infamous in U.S. history. Again, remember that the nickname given to the Progressive Party in America was the Bull Moose Party. Fit is a bull moose, to remind you of that story that you have already heard. And it's pretty self-explanatory what their platform was. We have looked at a lot of the progressive goals already. You've read about them in your book. You probably watched some videos on them. Tariff reduction is one. Women's suffrage, child labor, workplace protections, shortening the workday, federal workers' comp, etc. Women's right to vote. And a lot of women did campaign for the Bull Moose Party. He ran an epic election. We've already talked about that. We've talked about what happened in the election. And then we got to Wilson. We know that the vote was split and Wilson becomes president. Remember, he became president with just a small plurality of the vote. He did not have the majority of the people's backing, but he made one of the most significant changes to the U.S. economic system since Jackson did in the 1830s when he ended the federal bank. He essentially created a new federal bank system. Now, remember, as governor of New Jersey, he somewhat had a reputation for being a progressive, but it was really in running for office that his advisors said, hey, you need to run as a progressive. And he kept just enough progressives on that he won. In 1914, he did sign the Clayton Antitrust Act, which, if you remember the Sherman Antitrust Act, it strengthened that. It spelled out exactly what big business could, and more importantly, what they could not do, the abuses that they could no longer carry out. And he strengthened unions, protected rights to picket and boycott, etc. Which, if you remember, I mean, that was a significant victory for the labor movement. He also created the Federal Trade Commission and then the Federal Reserve Commission. There was a financial panic in 1907, and by 1913, he was helping to create the Federal Reserve System, and I'm giving you here what it actually did. Let me see. Raise your hand if anybody watched a video or took notes on the Federal Reserve System in any way as part of the assignment. Raise your hand if you did that. The video assignment. I don't see any names, so I guess not. Basically, it created several regional Federal Reserve. Hang on just a moment, guys. Gotcha. So one person watched a crash course video that had a little bit of it in it. It wound up being one of the most long-lasting progressive reforms in the sense that it completely changed our banking industry. For lack of a better term, it did create a national bank system where member banks would store their capital and cash reserves with the Federal Reserve. Hang on just a moment. It would be supervised by a Federal Reserve Board whose members would be appointed by the president. I need to ask one of you a question really shortly. George, your name is right there on my right, and this list of names is real available. I'm about to unmute you in 3, 2, 2. What is that with that? 2, 1. When you're looking at the screen, can you see the window that's open on my right side that has my little face and then the names, or are you only seeing the PowerPoint?
I'm only seeing the PowerPoint.
Good deal. Good deal. So the screen is actually blocking a large portion of the words for me. And if you were seeing that, then you wouldn't be able to, on the YouTube video or screenshot, to go back and take those notes. Thank you for helping. Appreciate that. Moving forward. You could also, as a member bank, borrow money to meet short-term demand. And this was supposed to prevent bank failures during times of economic panic. Now, that's 1913. How successful was that? Now, let's let that sink in for a moment. Carson, I'm going to be calling on you in 3, 2. How successful was it at stopping bank failures?
Well, considering the Great Depression, not very.
Right, and as you have already learned in a prior assignment, you're still live, by the way, so in case you're wanting to add to that, during the 1920s, before the actual crash, banks were already failing. There were several thousand banks, rural banks, that had already failed by the time of the Great Crash. So its eventual goal, not really reached. Carson, are you a fan of the Federal Reserve?
I don't know enough about it to be a for or against it.
Good deal. Thank you for being honest. About the Mucci going away? There we go. It also created a new currency known as Federal Reserve Note. Now, if you remember, that had been a goal of the Greenback Party. We now just had paper money, so that the Federal Reserve could just expand or contract the money supply as needed. He being Wilson, passed several other financial reforms. The Federal Farm Loan Board in 1916. Recall the farming crisis that had been going on in the latter part of the 19th century, early part of the 20th century. This was supposed to address some of that, making loans available to farmers at lower rates. Remember, one of the enemies of farmers was commercial banks. He really wasn't that active in social justice. He opposed women's rights to vote. He reinforced the Jim Crow system. He made it so that federal buildings were segregated. He gets a lot of credit for being a progressive thinker on the world stage because of his actions in World War I, but socially speaking, as far as social justice issues, he was far behind a lot of other progressive statesmen of the time. But we say that the high point of the progressive era happened under Wilson because of his appointment he made to the Supreme Court, Louis Brandeis. He was a Jewish lawyer. He was the first Jewish or person of Jewish descent to be appointed to the Supreme Court. He is the guy, by the way, who had originally advised, or one of the people that originally advised Wilson to run under the banner of progressivism. So in the election of 1912, brilliant legal mind, very, very progressive. And when he was nominated, a lot of people resisted him, supposedly for being too radical. Of course, you know that it was the early 20th century, and there would have been significant anti-Semitism as well. He was resisted for that reason, but he was approved. And he served until 1939. And this kind of marks that peak of progressivism because you have progressives in Congress that are dominating Congress. You technically have a progressive in the White House, and you have progressive in the Supreme Court. So those are the progressive presidents. He did win a second term. You studied this in world history in relation to World War I. Remember that the idea that he kept us out of war, and we've already discussed how that wasn't exactly the most popular position. There were a lot of Americans who weren't supportive of that idea. But he did win. He did win in 1916. And progressivism really wasn't on everyone's mind. It kind of run its course because people were now wondering about Europe and were we going to get involved in Europe and the war in Europe, and we've already looked at that part. By the mid-19 teens, progressives had achieved a lot of their goals. Remember, urban reforms were what some of the actual organizers at the local level were working on. Sewage and police protection and fire protection, workplace protections at the local and state level, child labor protections, etc. But there were some really serious limitations of what the progressive era actually accomplished. It focused primarily on the problems of the cities. Tenant farmers in the South and Southwest, and Lord knows that sharecroppers in the South, and marginalized transitionary types of migrant workers in the Southwest and West, non-unionized workers, that it really didn't address a lot of the challenges that they were facing. A lot of small farmers were still facing crisis situations. It did restrict immigration. For the most part, progressives were on board. A lot of progressives on one side of the aisle were on board with women voting, but on the other side of the aisle, not so much. Wilson didn't really support it. It wasn't until World War I that it really began to heat up and women's right to vote. by the way, if you think about this, really fit into that whole social Darwinistic idea that strengthened the imperialistic policies that America had. That progressivism and progressive American ideas could spread to areas that needed to be civilized, so to speak. Progressive gains really didn't extend to African Americans, and a lot of African American writers, African American activist newspapers, or just African American newspapers in general, editorials in them, as thinkers, poets, writers, etc., really recognized that the progressive movement was not directed at them, for them. And ironically, even a lot of people who supported women's rights in the progressive era did so in this weird, ironic, backward way of doubling the white vote overnight. We're going to look at that more closely. It's going to be one of the last sections in the notes that we take, the plight of African Americans in the early 20th century. So we'll save some of that for then. War broke out in August of 1914, as you've already have studied. We were worried about getting involved in that, etc. And so by the time we get to 1916, despite us saying that 1916 was the height of the progressive era because of the Supreme Court appointment, in all reality, progressivism was kind of dwindling as an idea. It was leaving the national stage. A lot of the most obvious needed urban reforms were either already passed or were in the middle of being done. And there was really only one lone remaining cause, and that was women's suffrage. So it is 11:37. And we're going to be going to 12, and I want to give you a little bit of time to ask questions about the essay and about turning in your notes, etc. To review, you'll have a journal write and journal entry. Everything kind of runs together, so let me ask someone. Aubrey, have I posted already on Canvas did I hit the publish button for the journal write?
Yeah, I think there was like 2 different assignments. They both said journal entry number 16.
Okay, I'll check on that for you guys, and make sure that there's only one on there. Okay, the progressive era test. I want to finish the progressive era before I test on it. Let me go ahead and address a question before I get this question, now that we're taking some time at the end here to do this. We will need artifacts for Cambridge, and a lot of that will be the essays that you write, but we'll also need to provide proof that you were effectively doing them, or effectively focusing on the material that the entire curriculum is made of. So we're going to have to test on the progressive era. Also, again, if we return to school, it'll provide us a way to actually get that grade recorded, and so we'll need to do that. I will have to figure out. I have not done this ever on Canvas. I have not done the essay test writing on Canvas. We're probably going to have to do that. We're probably going to have to do a timed test on Canvas, and you will actually have to have your cameras on, and you'll have to be sitting in such a way that I can see the back profile and the screen as you're working on it, and that way you can submit it on Canvas. That's probably the direction we're going in, but I want to know more about that and be a little bit more comfortable with it before I actually assign it and give you a date. But it's coming up when we finish the progressive notes. It'll be in the next period of time right after that. So yes, you are still being tested on the progressive era. Questions about the essay? Anyone have questions about the essay? Raise your hand if you do, please. Anyone have questions about the notes assignment that will be turned in instead of me checking here. You can also ask questions about that. George, what's your question, sir?
I don't even see the assignment on Canvas at all. Aubrey, I guess, said she saw 2 for the journal, right? I don't see a single.
Okay, well, we all know probably what that means. It probably means that I accidentally activated it twice in one class and not for the other. So I'll look at that. Let me take a note to do that. Hang on. Okay. So I'll make sure and get that highlighted. It's due on Monday morning. Okay. Thank you for letting me know. Appreciate that, George. Chase, question.
Are you just wanting the notes from the video, the 30 minutes of video that we watched, and all the notes from the book?
Yes, the Cambridge Blue Book, the revision. Absolutely.
Okay.
That's what will be on this assignment. That I'll be making due for Monday as well. Further questions? Guys, I think everyone's doing a great job. All the teachers that I talk with on Zoom as well, their students are turning in work and they're teaching. They are, I'll address some of these questions on the side in just a moment. They are actively working. I know it's a stressful time, but guys, I think we're doing great. We're going to come out of this okay. Do listen to the experts, realize that social distancing is required. We're now on a shelter-in-place order, I'm sure you're aware of. Do abide by that if at all possible. Of course, that's your parents' job to tell you. I'm just telling you that if I can be here in any way to help you in relation to class in any capacity, please send me a message. I'm not looking to make this a difficult time. I do want to establish the normalcy and the routine is good for me mentally. I know it has to be good for students as well. It's good for my daughter that she has class that she can be working on. So we need to press forward to that. Plus we need the artifacts. We need to still test. We need to still cover the material. So all that is still there. Now on the side, when is our progressive era test? I already covered that. Is it over the 16th and 19th amendments? The progressive era test is over the entire progressive era, goals, personalities, acts passed, different groups that existed during it, urban, state, federal renewals, failures, whether or not it did successfully address its goals, all that good stuff. The essay specifically that is due for your journal entry is the 16th to 19th amendments. Yes, the progressive amendments, 16th, 17th, 18th, and 19th. Further questions? All right. So to make sure that I understand, Kate Rivers, I'm unmuting you. You always listen really closely and write everything down. A lot of students do, but your name was right there, so that I'm calling on you. Let me cover what it is that I need to get done for the class and see if I'm missing anything, okay?
Yes, sir.
I need to make sure that there's a Canvas assignment for both class periods in relation to what's due on Monday for the essay. I need to put on Canvas the notes assignment, and I need to upload today's class video onto the YouTube channel. Am I missing anything?
I don't think so.
All right, so I'm about to mute you back there. Thank you. Really briefly, if I'm missing anything, somebody raise your hand. Let me know. No? Guys, I want you to have a fantastic weekend. Enjoy your family if that's still possible at this point. Lower the curve. Do what's asked of you. Get this schoolwork done and turned in. I appreciate every one of you. I'm proud of every one of you. And we're going to get this done. We're going to knock this out. Remember, the assignments are now open for the third 9 weeks. Those of you that need to get on that, need to get on that. All right? Guys, you have a great weekend. Be safe. Be careful. And we'll talk on Monday. we will have our class on Monday. That's one thing, Kate Rivers. I also need to get that scheduled, the Monday class. So we'll talk on Monday. Y'all have a great weekend, guys. If you want to ask questions in private, you can stay on, and I'll leave the screen active until everyone logs off. If you don't have questions, see you on Monday.
I just want to let you know that I got in like a little bit after you started talking.
Thank you, Jerry.
You're welcome.
Juju, you there? You have questions, Julian?
Nope.
All right, man. Have a great weekend.